Hello, first grade Cougars. It's Mrs. Balatash. I'm so glad to see you. And you can call me Mrs. Balatash or you can call me Mrs. B, whichever is easiest for you. And I'm going to be teaching you science this year, and I'm so excited about it. We're going to have so many fun things to do. I can't wait to share them with you. But first, I want to talk about some of the supplies you got and keeping our science notebook. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the supplies and your notebook. So you probably got a bag, something like this, and it says, "Please do not open the science kit until directed by Mrs. Balatash." Well, I still don't want you to open it yet, okay? So next week we're gonna open it, but today just keep it closed, okay? Then you also got a science notebook, and it should look like this, and it says name of student. So I put my name, Mrs. Balatash. Put your name there, don't put Mrs. Balatash. Put grade, this is first grade, and the school is Carpenter Community Charter. I put Carpenter CC, or you can put CCC, whatever you would like. And our science notebook is going to be really important this year. Every scientist and engineer keeps a notebook of what they observe, what they learn. And the notebook keeps all of their ideas together. And since you are going to be a scientist and an engineer when you're in science class, you need to keep a science notebook. So I'm going to open up my first page, and I'm doing mine on August 24th. So I put the date. Boys and girls, it's really important that you put the date at the top of every page and that you keep track, okay? And the first question that we're going to answer is, how do we learn? How do we learn? Now, I forgot to put a page number, so I'm going to put a number 1 at the bottom because this is the first page of my science notebook. So I have the date, I have my question, my focus question, how do we learn? And I have the number 1, which is the first page. Why don't you take a minute right now and do that in your notebook? So put your name, put the grade level, put Carpenter Community Charter or CCC, whichever you would like. Put the date, whatever the date is. I'm doing it on Monday, August 24th, but you might do it on a different day. And the question is, how do we learn? How do we learn? And put a number 1 at the bottom. Okay? All right, let's figure that out. So boys and girls, I wanted to read this story to you about how do we learn. We use our senses. We can look. Look at that. There is a beautiful butterfly in that jar. And I see some beautiful flowers in the back. So they are really looking carefully. We can listen. This woman is reading a story to these students, and they are listening to the story. I see he has a dinosaur. I love dinosaurs. Oh, I love them. I think they're so great. We can touch. This little boy is touching a starfish. I have been to the aquarium down in Long Beach, and I got to touch a starfish before. It was so great. We can smell. Oh, look at that beautiful flower she's smelling. I have some rose bushes at home, and we have rose bushes in front of the school, and when there are roses on it, they smell so good. We can taste. Wow, that watermelon looks so good. It's a hot day today, and I would love a nice, cold, juicy slice of watermelon. It tastes so sweet. We find out. We can ask questions. Oh, here's this little boy, and he is with a fireman, and he's asking questions about that big fire truck. I have a lot of questions about fire trucks. There's so many different things that are on fire trucks. I wonder how they work. We can read. So boys and girls, it's possible that you don't know how to read yet. You're gonna learn how to read, right? But we can learn a lot of things just by looking at pictures and figuring things out. We can observe. So here's a little boy and his dad, and they're looking through a telescope. This is a telescope, and they're looking at the moon, and there are some stars there. The word observe is so important in science. So I want us to talk about it for just a little bit. So the word observe, it has 2 syllables. Let's clap it. Observe. 2 syllables. Observe. So to observe means to look carefully, but not just looking, right? We can observe the world by using our senses. We can look, we can smell, we can taste, we can hear, and we can touch. All of those are ways that we can observe. So we just learned that we can use our senses to learn about the world, right? We can look, we can smell, we can taste, we can listen, we can hear, and we can touch. So let's start with looking. We have to really look carefully and closely so that we can learn about things, right? We can look at colors and we can look at how big something is. I want to show you a sunflower that I grew over the summer, and I want us to look really closely at it. So here's the sunflower, and I grew it in my garden, and when you look at the flower, this is a big flower, it just looks like a big yellow thing. But if you look closer, you can start to see the seeds. I'm going to brush away some of the yellow petals. And do you see? Those are the sunflower seeds. Look, oh, there's a little bug in there. So the sunflower at a distance just looks like a flower. But when we look really closely, when we observe, we can see that those are the sunflower seeds. So we looked at the sunflower. We looked really closely. So the next thing is that we're going to smell some things. And I picked some rosemary from the garden. Oh, I love the smell of rosemary. It smells so good. And I also have some basil from the garden. Oh my goodness, it's so good. But you can also get some other things from your kitchen. This is some curry. Ooh, it's very strong, but I love curry. I love this smell. And this is some cinnamon. Oh, wow. Some really great smells. So we can learn about the world by observing with our eyes, looking, and smelling. Okay, the next one is tasting, right? And I have some apple slices, and it's so sweet and juicy. And also when I chew, it makes a sound, right? But I also have some crackers, which are salty. Really salty, really good. I love it. So we can look at things, we can smell things, we can taste things, and we can listen or we can hear, right? I love this thing. This is a lot of fun. like an accordion. And it makes noise. And that's really cool. Okay, and we can touch things. So I have a beautiful starfish. In the story we read about how we learn, the starfish was living and it was still flexible and soft, but this one is very rigid and hard and bumpy. But I have a shell that's also hard, but it's very smooth. So these are all ways that we can use our senses to observe, right? We can look, we can smell, we can taste, we can hear, we can touch. All of those things are ways that we can learn about the world. Okay, so we finished our learning about how we learn, right? We read a book about observing. We looked at and smelled and tasted different things. And now we're gonna make a notebook entry into our science notebook. So on the first page, we had the focus question. How do we learn? And so based on what we did in our experiment today, I said that we use our senses. We see, we smell, we taste, we hear, we touch. And then I drew some pictures and I labeled them. Every single time we have a picture in our science notebook, it's really important to add the label. So it's not really a picture. In science, we call it a diagram, okay? So now I want you to write in your science notebook, how do we learn? And answer that question. That is the focus question for today. Okay, next week, we're going to open the bag. And we're gonna start our first real experiment. Okay, see you then, Cougars.